Have you ever just stopped and looked at your life and realized you're in a relationship that feels, well, painfully familiar? Like you're stuck in some kind of loop you just can't break? If that sounds like you are in exactly the right place. We're going to unpack the deep psychological reasons we get pulled into these unhealthy dynamics. And, most importantly, we're going to talk about the real, concrete steps you can take to heal and finally choose a different path for yourself.
It all really starts with this one question, doesn't it? Why does this keep happening to me? It's a question that so many people ask themselves, and if you've ever felt that way, you are not alone. The hard truth is that these patterns, they're not random. They're not some kind of curse. They're actually a sign of deeper emotional wounds that, a lot of the time, we're unconsciously trying to fix.
So, the very first step, before we can change a single thing, is awareness. We have to be able to see the pattern clearly. What does a toxic or unhealthy dynamic actually look and feel like? Let's get into it.
Now, the key here is that these aren't just one-off bad days. It's a constant pattern. It's when your feelings are regularly dismissed, when their ego always comes first, no matter what. It's when they shift blame, saying things like, well, you made me do this. And after a while, every conversation just leaves you feeling empty and drained. It's like a slow erosion of your self-worth until you start doubting your own reality.
So, the big question is, why do we put up with this? Well, the answer, so often, lies deep in our past. Our attraction to these kinds of dynamics, it isn't some kind of personal flaw, it's usually an echo of our very first experiences with love and connection. I want you to think of it like this. When you were a kid, your experiences were building this internal map for what relationships are supposed to look like. It's a blueprint. And now, as an adult, you're using that old map to navigate love. But what if that map was drawn in a chaotic or maybe in an emotionally neglectful home? Well, you might find yourself unconsciously walking right back into that same familiar, painful territory over and over again.
Psychology actually has a name for these deep patterns. They're called schemas. A schema is basically a core belief about yourself and the world that gets baked in during childhood. It's not something you're consciously thinking about, but man, does it have a powerful influence on who you find attractive and what kind of relationship feels normal, even if it's completely unhealthy.
And this table just illustrates that connection so perfectly. Let's just take one, emotional deprivation. If you grew up feeling like your emotional needs were never met, you might find yourself drawn to emotionally unavailable partners as an adult. And why would you do that? Because on some deep unconscious level, it just feels familiar. It's like your subconscious is trying to go back and fix that original wound by finally winning love from someone who can't actually give it.
So what's the healthy alternative? Well, the gold standard in psychology is something called secure attachment. This is the foundation of healthy relationships, period. It's what happens when a child learns that they can express everything they're feeling, joy, anger, sadness, fear, and know, without a doubt, that their caregiver will still be there for them, giving them safety and support, not shame or abandonment.
And this right here, this is the absolute heart of the matter. When that secure attachment is missing in childhood, the consequences are huge and they are long-lasting. This becomes the root of so many struggles in adulthood. That nagging low self-esteem, that deep-seated fear of being alone, and of course, a continuous pattern of painful relationships. It's what creates that faulty blueprint we've been talking about.
Okay, so this brings us to a really tough part of the cycle. Understanding why we get into these relationships is one thing, but understanding why it's so incredibly hard to stay, that's another. There are these powerful psychological forces at play that can feel like invisible chains. It's the question our friends ask, our family asks, and that we scream at ourselves in the mirror, right? If it hurts so much, why not just walk away? Well, the answer is incredibly complex, and it has almost nothing to do with logic or personal strength.
One of the most powerful forces keeping people stuck is called intermittent reinforcement. It's literally the same psychological principle that makes slot machines in Vegas so addictive. Think about it. If a reward is unpredictable, sometimes you get affection, sometimes you get ignored, your brain gets a huge hit of dopamine when you finally get that reward. That high becomes incredibly powerful and addictive, and it creates this intense trauma bond that is so hard to break.
And we can see this play out perfectly in the classic cycle of abuse. You have the tension building, the explosion, and then the honeymoon phase. That loving, apologetic period. That's the intermittent reward. That's the jackpot. It feeds that desperate hope that things will finally be different this time, and it keeps you in the game, waiting for the next high, while you endure all the lows.
And on top of all that, there's so much other stuff weighing you down. That core belief that you just don't deserve any better. A terrifying, paralyzing fear of being alone. Or, that feeling that you've already invested so much time and energy that you can't possibly walk away now. And very often, the partner is an expert at manipulation, making you feel guilty for even thinking about leaving.
But here is the good news. Understanding all these patterns is not a life sentence. It is the beginning of the way out. So let's talk about the turning point, the path to healing.
This really says it all, doesn't it? You can't change what you don't see. The awareness that you are gaining right now, just by listening to this, that is the most critical part of this whole journey. It's where you start to get your power back.
And let's be crystal clear about this. Acknowledging your part in this cycle is not about blaming yourself. It is the exact opposite of that. It's about realizing that you're the common denominator in your relationships, and if you have the power to participate in the pattern, you absolutely have the power to change it. That is real empowerment. So, where do you even start? First, just start listening to that quiet little voice inside, that gut feeling that's been telling you something is off. Second, you have to practice radical self-compassion. Forgive yourself. You did the best you could with the tools you had at the time. And third, start to get really clear about what you actually need in a relationship, not just what you're used to settling for.
Okay, so once you've started doing that really important internal work, it's time to build the external tools you need to create change that actually lasts. And this is all about two things: boundaries and support.
All right, let's demystify the word boundaries. A boundary is not a giant wall you build to keep people out. It's a clear line in the sand that shows where you end and another person begins. It's you saying, this is okay with me, and this is not okay with me. And it is absolutely essential for your well-being. This slide just lays it out so perfectly. It's about that mental shift from the unhealthy belief on the left, like it's my job to fix them, to the healthy boundary builder on the right, I am responsible for myself and they are responsible for themselves. This is not selfish. It is the absolute foundation of self-respect.
And let me tell you, the payoff for doing this work is huge. When you start setting, and more importantly, enforcing healthy boundaries, your self-esteem just skyrockets. You actually gain more respect from other people because you're finally respecting yourself. It gives you freedom from fear and allows you to just be your true, authentic self. And this part is so important. You do not have to do this alone. In fact, for these kinds of deep attachment wounds, you really can't do it alone. Working with a therapist who gets trauma and relationship dynamics isn't a sign of weakness, it's one of the strongest things you can do. It's a crucial step in getting the expert support you need to finally heal those old wounds and build a brand new, healthy relationship blueprint. Because in the end, your story does not have to be a repeat. It doesn't. Transformation is absolutely possible. The patterns of your past do not get to define your future. So, I'll leave you with this question to think about. As you look at that sign, that life change ahead, what is one small, clear boundary you can set for yourself starting today to begin writing your new chapter?